Shalom, everybody. This is Dion Tolley, and we wanted to make a video today. We, meaning me. Anyway, we wanted to make a video today about the identity of Esau. It's been such controversial. It seems like madness to me at this point. That shouldn't be controversial. And I don't understand where it's coming from. I mean, it's like if you're studying the same scriptures we are, and you're looking at the reality of life here on this planet in terms of gentrification and things of that nature, colonization, conquest, then we shouldn't be having this discussion about who Esau is, And I know that it's probably not a discussion. It's probably settled in a lot of people's hearts by this point. But we wanted to clear up some things in terms of this. And it seems to be a ridiculous notion that because Esau and Jacob were both black, and these are facts, Abraham, Isaac, Yitzhak, Yakub, all of the, whatever way you want to describe the names, I prefer the Hebrew names, but for the sake of this conversation, we'll just call them the translated names. And at any rate, these men, yes, they were black when they started out, or as children, or, their origin, I should say. As children, I don't know what that meant. Anyway, my point is that it wouldn't have mattered anyway after a child is born. He grows up to be a man. He chooses a wife, and his wife and his generations thereafter, particularly if the generation that they join to is of another race, and you begin to take your genealogy down that particular road almost outright, wholesale, then you no longer can say your origin is, at least in this case, you can no longer say that, that Esau is a Hebrew, or Esau was a black man. And all of those things are true in terms of Esau himself. But let's go to the point. Let's go to the biblical point. It tells you here who Esau is. All right? You know who he is. He's the brother of Jacob, son of Yitzhak. And he said he took wives of the daughters of Canaan. Ada, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, Aholibamah, the daughter of Anna, the daughter of Zibeon the Hivite, and Bashemath, Ishmael's daughter, sister of Nebajoth. Okay, now Nebajoth is, you want to look at this word here. Let's check this word out. This is a little side thing. Nebajoth is where we get the word Nubia from. See that? Noob. To flourish, to utter, to bring forth. That's where we get the term Nubia from. Okay? So we understand that you're dealing with black people at this point, except for the people he married into. Now, the people he married into were the daughters of Canaan. Let's go with the Hittites. Hittites is the word kitty, right? It means Keth, which is their fathers. Heth. A lot of English translators played with the CH sound and the H sound in order to replace or to misplace people from their rightful origins. Well, at any rate, let's look at that word with Kittim, right? Let's look at that word with Kittim. We're still on the Hittite aspect, but let's look at that word with Kittim, right? Now check this out. All right? Now it says you Kitty, denoting Cyprus, a Kittite or Cypriot, an islander. The Greeks or Romans on the shores opposite Palestine. That's that little island that sits on the opposite of the shores of Israel and Palestine. Okay, these were the sea people. Now, what I wanted to point out to you was that word kitty, right? And look at this word of the Hittites, kitty. But they just put an H in there like this without words and this not being on paper. We would just be going by the sounds that it made. And there's no distinction between that and and the Kittites. See, there's no distinction. All right. So that's where we are on that one. Okay. But this is my point on Esau. No matter what you think about him, he can never be black anymore because of who he married into. This is my point. You can no longer consider him to be of Hebrew. They probably had a hue to him where they can term an Egyptian, tint, light skin, in between that as some Egyptians appear today. But that is irrelevant. The relevance is the fact that Esau married into the families of the Canaanites. And the Canaanites, no matter what you think, are not black people. All right? Let's look at the Hittites. The Hittites were an Anatolian Indo-European people. This is where they come from. This is also Mount Seir. It's the Turkish Empire. Hittites are Turks. All right? Let's go back. All right? These are all going back to the Bronze Age. We saw that from Abraham. Abraham, when he bought the cave from the Hittites. These people go all the way back. And they were in there because at the Tower of Babel, a lot of the nations, if not all of the nations, were all congregated in this region. Okay? This is one of the earliest civilizations after the Sumerian civilization, which is basically another etymological mystery where they changed the word of Sum and how we get from that to Semite when they're the same word. That's another study, though. I'll get into that deeper on another time. But my point in this discussion is the fact that the Hittites are Turks. So when Esau married into this family, he married into the Turks. And the Turks are the origin of where we know of as the people of Chittim, which were Romans. That's called a Cypriot. An islander. There's a lot of discussion about these sea peoples, these mysterious sea peoples. Well, here they go. Here's your sea peoples. Okay? Now let's get into it a little deeper. Follow this thing with him. And they were saying, well, okay, if they were all black at that point, and they say for this discussion, they started out a little bit colored or hued. Okay? We'll take it to the Mongolian invasion where Genghis Khan, right? The Mongol invasion conquest took place during the 13th and 14th centuries, creating history's largest contiguous empire. Contiguous. The Mongol Empire from 1206 to 1368, which by 1260 covered large parts of Eurasia, and historians regard the Mongol devastation as one of the deadliest episodes in history. We were talking about gentrification. This is gentrification to give you an understanding of just how far this empire stands. This is Israel right here. See? This is all of these people who were claimed to have been Shemites at this time. Syrians and the Mongolians, from where they came from, they conquered this whole area. Now let's look. Now look at it. It says Genghis Khan forged the initial Mongol Empire in Central Asia. Started with the unification of the nomadic tribes: the Merkits, the Tatars, the Karaites, the Turks, the Naimans, the Mongols. The Buddhist Uyghurs of Koko surrendered and joined the empires. He then continued expansion via conquest of the Karakitai, of the Khwarezmian. Khwarezmian. Ooh, that's a good, say that 5 times fast. Anyway, large areas of the Islamic Central Asia and northeastern Persia were seriously depopulated as every town that resisted the Mongols were destroyed. Each soldier was given a quota of enemies to execute according to circumstance. For example, under the Urgench, each Mongol warrior in army of perhaps of 2 tumens, 20,000 troops, was required to execute 24 people, or nearly 500,000 people per said army. That's 20,000 troops. Let's look at how many people they said that they killed, cutting through the chase. I want to see where it says how many people were killed during the. Well, we'll just ask the question then. How many people were killed during the Mongolian? Oops, too many Z's, too many O's. Mongolian conquest. One estimate is about 10% of the world's population was killed either during or immediately after the Mongols' invasion, from 37.75 to 60 million people in Eurasia. Okay, let's look at this one. Mongolians and the Middle Eastern conquest. Okay. I'm going to go. How did the Mongols conquer Israel? Okay. Now let's look at the conquered Mongol invasions of the Levant. All right. Starting in the 1240s, the Mongols made repeat invasions of Syria, or attempts thereof. Most failed, but they did have some success in 1260 and 1300, capturing Aleppo, Damascus, and destroying the Ayyubid dynasty. The Mongols were forced to retreat within months each time by other forces in the area, primarily the Egyptian Mamluks. Right? During the governorship of Baku in Persia, the Mongolian army under Esau attacked Syria in 1244. The reasons for the attack are unclear, but it may have been in retaliation for the Syrian participation in the Seljuk side of the Battle of Kosedag. All right, I wanted to see where they go. They went all the way up into Gaza. Was captured by the Mongols near Gaza in 1260. That's part of it. So you understand that this thing conquered all of Europe and made their way all the way back into the Middle East, but really Northeast Africa. It says the Mongols conquered by battle or voluntary surrender the areas of present-day Iran, Iraq, the Caucasus, parts of Syria, and Turkey, with further Mongol raids reaching southwards into Palestine as far as Gaza. All right? So now you're looking at the gentrification. We're scattered. And at this point, I believe we were still in West Africa. That's a whole nother study, but that's according to the prophecies of John, where he said that we were taken from before the face of the beast or the dragon, and who let out a flood. You know what I mean? Which basically devastated the whole area, trying to destroy us. That was the flood of AD 360. The tsunami, the Great Tsunami of 365. Let me be precise. And you can find that right there. Let's look at that. Great Tsunami of 365. All right. And this was started from the Crete earthquake. But this right here, and I know this is getting off on sort of a tangent, but I wanted to show that also confirms the fact that we were, according to that prophecy, we were, and it was created the Sahara desert climates the way we see it today, because it says the earth opened up her mouth and swallowed up the flood and helped the woman, which was our people. Okay, let's see if I can find that. Approximate epicenter. Let's see if they're doing it. Nile Delta, this whole area, Northeast Africa, this right here would be Israel, the Middle East. All of that water and tsunami went all the way in and then receded and dragged all of which is connected to the prophecy of Egypt as well. But like I said, that's getting off on a tangent. But I wanted to show you a little bit more about that too, about the Turks and Esau, the Hittite, the Romans, how all of them are connected. Like, look at this place here. This is called Esauria. In ancient geography, is a rugged, isolated district near the Asia Minor, a very different extent of different periods, but generally covering that what is now the district of Bozkır and is surrounded in the Konya province of Turkey, or the core of the Taurus Mountains. You see that? This was all where Paul's ministry took place, who told y'all that he was coming for the Gentiles. And our problem is that we can't discern between Gentiles and who we are. This is Esauria. Esauria. And isn't that Mount Seir? Isn't that Mount Seir? What country is Mount Seir of antiquity? Bunch of rigmarole. Not even close either. Bunch of rigmarole, because Mount Seir Syria. Huh? I guess they think most people will never make that. Sometimes how things are spelled that means nothing to somebody who's not spelling at the time. We're just conversating and talking based on audible sounds and words. These two words are the same. Remember, the word was spoken, the world was spoken into existence. Writing was for posterity and communication in terms of other people from person to person or nation to nation, tribe to tribe, etc. But language is key. That's why people were identified in antiquity by your tongue. Read the book of Josephus. So Mount Seir, Syria, are one and the same, right? And Syrians aren't black people, to my knowledge. Let's look at Syrians, right? Let's look at Syrians. That's what Syrians look like. Hmm? See the difference? Esau could have been black as tar, married him a white woman, and now you're talking 5,000 years later through the Genghis Khan invasion. See that? Founded the Mongol Empire through his invasion, all the way up to today. This is what you're dealing with. I know I'm kind of bouncing all over the place, but you get the idea. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention something like this brother. I seem to have a lot of respect for, but is he's going to pull this up. Listen to this. Now listen to this guy. He's talking about this tribe of African people and Edomite African tribe. Let's see if and he's let me find where is okay. I wanted to talk about um, this African tribe called the Aduma. Is that what it is? The Aduma tribe, or basically these are people who claim. Uh, um, Let me see if I could find them. Here we Right. But see, this is where this guy and what he's talking about, and even though he can have all of the etymological similarities that he wants with the original name of Esau, but if you don't match the characteristics, what difference does it make? And what I mean by that, let's go to Revelation 2939. Let's go to Revelation 2939, right? Let's go to the first one first. 2:9. I know thy works, thy tribulation, and thy poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are a sin. Listen to me again now. But are the synagogue of Satan. This guy's a Muslim. This guy don't worship in synagogues. This guy does not worship in synagogue. This doesn't apply to people in that part of the world. We worship in churches as black people, which was basically the origin of that word, would have been assembly. We would have been the congregation or the assembly of the Most High's children, which would have been their first original disciples. But synagogues is exclusively for those who call themselves Jews, which is not the same you are Yehudi. We're not going to go down that road, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. All right? And let's go to a little deeper about things that we know they don't match. All right? Let's look at what he says about the eagle. Right? Let's look at what he says about the eagle. Okay. See that? Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, though thou set thy nest among the stars, yet I will bring thee down. He's talking about Esau, right? Now look at what he says here before we even get into that. He says, I have made thee small among the heathen, and thou art greatly despised. That ain't these people. This is heathen, right? This is a heathen. A heathen is a goy, which was known as a Gentile. Wrong part of the world for that whole discussion from them people calling themselves Edomites over in Africa as Muslims. That's ridiculous. I made thee small among the heathen, which means these people are weaved into the heathens. Thou art greatly despised. He said, the pride of thy heart has deceived thee. These people ain't got no pride. Nobody even knows of these people. And thou shalt dwellest in the cliffs of the rocks. Let's look at some of the mansions that are mounted on the side of. We've seen that. This is part of who they are, whose habitation is high-rise buildings in New York, the towers, all of these different buildings with penthouses and all of them up there, $30, $40 million penthouses. This is how they live. They were from the mountains since back in antiquity, since their origin. That said in their heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? Though you exalt yourself like an eagle, as the eagle, though I set thy nest among the stars. That don't mean you went to the moon, but it says among the stars. So you're around them. And what's around them? The satellites, space stations. Them jokers over there in Africa don't have them. They're my brethren and everything. I mean that. Let me take that back. But you don't have any nests in the stars. I ain't talking about you. Nor do you worship in synagogues. Nor do you fit this description. All right, let me get it. Let me go Old Testament. All right. Okay. Let's go to Ezekiel. Therefore, thus saith Yahweh Elohim, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen. Okay. Go back to that one again. All right. Goyim, foreign nation, Gentiles, foreign nation. Foreign to who? Foreign to Hebrews. A troop of animals, oh boy. A flight of locusts consuming everything. That's what locusts do. Gentile, a heathen, a nation of people. That's not us. Genesis 10 tells you these are the islands of the Gentile. And he was describing Europe. So there's a big distinction. Turkey is a pawn that, if you look at Turkey today, Turkey's a part of the European Union. It's part of the NATO. I think it's part of G7 as well. No, it's not a part of G7, no. Anyway, looking at this, he said, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen and against all Idumea, which have appointed my land into their possession with all joy of their heart, with despiteful minds, to cast it out for a prey. He says, prophesy therefore concerning the land of Israel. This is the land that he was talking about, that they have possession of. So he's saying prophesy against it. Saying to the mountains and the hills and the rivers and the valleys, saith Yahweh Elohim, behold, I have spoken in my jealousy and in my fury, because ye have borne the shame of the heathen. Therefore, thus saith Yahweh Elohim, I have lifted up mine heart, mine hand, surely the heathen that are round about you, they shall bear their shame. But ye, O mountains of Israel, ye shall shoot forth your branches and yield your fruit to my people of Israel, for they are at hand to come. So this is a prophecy. Getting the picture? Let's see what he talks about Idumea. All right. Idumea and Edom, just so we clear. Right? 35:15. Let's go there. He says, now, as thou didst rejoice at the inheritance of the house of Israel, because it was desolate, so will I do unto thee. Thou shalt be desolate, O Mount Seir, and all Idumea, even all of it, and they shall know that I am the Elohim. So he considers Mount Seir Idumea. So whatever notions you got about who Esau is, it's irrelevant if it's not in line with Scripture. It's just your personal opinion at this point. This is what separates every bit of information and rhetoric from actual revelation knowledge from the Most High, is the prophecies. Don't get it twisted. That should make things clear. And look at this one, Isaiah. He said, for my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon all Idumea and upon the people of my curse to judgment. And what people is that? What people is that? Those are the Edomites. Those are the Edomites. Right? Without saying it. Right? Let me go to those are the Edomites who worship in synagogues. You get the picture? You get the picture? Let's ask the question. What people worship in synagogues? Once synagogues, now churches, and ailing quietly. Wow, that's deep. One black woman in there. But these are synagogues. Huh? Huh? We need to wake up, people. Know who your enemy is. This thing can go on all day because it's fundamental information. It's fundamental information. Let's look at this before we close this out. Let's look at that. I believe it's 4th chapter. Where, how do I just look it up? Let's look up, right? Let's go to narrative search. Okay. Okay, here we go. All right, let's go to the prophecy. He says, now, I will send a fire on the wall of Gaza. That hasn't happened yet. Even though the contents of what's inside Gaza is being destroyed by the people who call themselves Judah today, which shall devour the palaces thereof. So he's saying that now that he's going to send a fire on them, and with the conflict emerging from them and Hezbollah, that's not even an issue. And he will cut off the inhabitant of Ashdod, that's an Israeli seaport. And him that holdeth the scepter in Eshkelon, that's a largest seaport. Sea town, it's like, I guess what you would consider Tel Aviv and all of that proximity. And I will turn my hand against Ekron, another Israeli place. And the remnant of the Philistines shall perish. Those are the Palestinians, and they're doing that right now. And he's saying, well, whoever Palestinians are left at this point are all dead. Thus saith Yahweh, for 3 transgressions of Tyrus, which is, to me, modern day Tel Aviv, being that was the title, or the capital, rather, of Israel before Donald Trump and them changed it to Jerusalem. And for 4, I will turn away the punishment thereof, because they delivered up the whole captivity to Edom and remembered not the brotherly covenant. So he's saying that these people who live in Tyrus, who, as we said, according to Tel Aviv, is the capital, and certainly is the financial capital and the face of all of its beauty, in terms of palaces and hotels and beaches and its resorts. It's something to behold. But at the end of the day, he's saying that they delivered up the whole captivity to Edom. That's why when you hear these and see these terms like Edom and Idumea, they're talking about an empire. Like he said, small among the heathen, but represented in every position of power. And you see that in modern day media, business. You see that in every single category there is that these people control it. It's just the facts. And they were responsible for the trade. They would own the ships. They understood the mapping and navigation of it. They insured the cargoes. I mean, they were at the slave auctions. They had the estates in Europe and in America, where the plantations in the South, and just it can go on and on. And then he says here, for 3 transgressions of Edom, and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof either, to them as well. So this is where the Most High is going. You see what he did. And let's just go back and take stock real quick. He says that he'll send a fire upon the house of Hazael, which shall devour the palaces of Ben-Hadad. This is Syria. And I will break the bar of Damascus and cut off the inhabitant from the plain of Aven. And to him that hold a scepter in the house of Eden, and the people of Syria shall go into captivity unto Kir, which from what I understand is them going into Turkey and other places, but there's not much of it left, because we can get an idea that this was the first nation that the Most High judged when it came to the prophecy that he would lay the heritage of Esau waste. Now let's look at that. Let's look at that. Syria 2024. Images. Look at it. It's a wasteland. It's a wasteland. It's a wasteland. I don't know what this is. Unless that's some kind of wishful thinking. Because that's what it is right here. This place is in ruins. Place is in ruins. This is Mount Seir. All right. Now to the prophecy. He's saying he's going to destroy Syria. Then he was going to go to Gaza. See what's going on in Gaza. From there, he's saying he's going to Ashdod. Those are the Israeli towns. You understand what I mean? And then he's going for Edom, which would mean all of the nations that she's in power in, which would be America, England. Because he's already told you this right here is inside Israel itself. So now he's going, because he said that they led the captivity to Edom, which means that even though this is an empire, Tyrus was the head of all of it. This is the root. Now let's look at that in scripture too. You don't believe me? This is another spiritual implication that you probably never even considered. Look at this here. Not let's do that, right? And let's go to Isaiah, right? Ezekiel 28, right? Now, he said, Son of man, say unto the prince of Tyrus, because thou lifted up the heart that I am God and I sit in the seat of God, in the midst of the seas. He's saying he does because they, as Edomites, sitting in the sanctuary of the Most High, which is Israel. And he said, this is the prince, which would be the son, which I'm assuming he's talking about the people. Thou wiser than Daniel. And how we know that, because let's go over to the king. He says that therefore I will bring strangers upon thee, the terrible of the nations, and they shall draw their swords against the beauty of thy wisdom, and they shall defile thy brightness, and they shall bring thee down to the pit, and thou shalt die the deaths of them that are slain in the midst of the seas. And yet wilt thou say before him that slayeth thee that I am God? But thou shalt be a man and no God in the hand that him that slayeth thee. So he's saying you're going to be God, and you're going to be the children of God or the chosen people of God when they slaying you. Because that's what Netanyahu, even his name means, appointed and gifted by God. He's saying that you shall die the deaths of the uncircumcised by the hand of strangers. Now look at what he says about the king, which would be the spiritual, the father over them. Fallen angels, but that would be their father. Son of man, take up lamentation against the king of Tyrus, and say unto them, thus saith Yahweh Elohim, thou sealest up the sum, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. And thou hast been in Eden, the garden of God. And every precious stone was thy covering. He's talking about Satan. Thou art the anointed cherub that covereth. This is why I never say that word anointed. I always say it either he's the Mashiach or his name, salvation, distinguishes him. But this right here, it's just anointed. It just means anointed. And it changes the whole connotation when you think of him trying to give homage to himself before he fell. Hence the white Jesus. But I digress. He's telling you that all of these things, he was the anointed cherub. He was perfect in all that ways until iniquity was found in thee. So you see what he's saying? He's saying the prince is the people, and they wiser than Daniel. And the king is the devil, right? And he sealeth up the sum, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. And then he said iniquity was found in him. So the Most High defiled his beauty. He said that they that know thee among the people shall be astonished at thee. Thou shalt be a terror, and thou shalt never shalt thou be anymore. He's going to put an end to him in this conflict coming up that we're living in this generation. Anyway, this can go on all night. I just wanted to make some clarities so we get an understanding of what we consider to be, and I'll make this as respectful as I can. Our people need to know how to discern the holy from the profane. For calling ourselves Edomites and saying that because Edom was black and all that, just very simple-minded arguments. never considering the people he married, never considering the conquest to where these people from Mongolia took over and gentrified that whole area to where even the Arabs don't even look like that anymore. And that whole context, let's look at that. Let's look at that right there. Right? Let's look at Psalms 83. Let's look at Psalms 83 and let's check that out. They tell you the tabernacles of Edom, the Ishmaelites, right? Of Moab and the Hagarenes, which would have been the descendants of Hagar, the Egyptian, Ishmael's mother, right? Now let's look at that with that in mind, with Ishmael. It said him being the son of Ishmael, Abraham too. So assuming all of them are black at this point. Esau himself. We're talking about all of this now after he married into him, and this is what he considers to be thine enemies. Think about this. Thine enemies make a tumult. So he's saying that these tabernacles of Edom and the Ishmaelites and Moab and the Hagarenes, and he goes through the whole list, which I believe are the 10 horns, because these people didn't receive any kingdom, and they certainly weren't called these until 1948. Well, actually 1930 to 1948. That's when all of these nations started to reemerge from antiquity and being named other than Amalek, which would have been, I'm assuming, Esau. Israel, rather. But it says 10 nations. All right? So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And they helping the children a lot. And all of these are all fall under that umbrella. So they help the children a lot, which means that all of this basically starts with Moab and Ammon. They didn't receive a kingdom, but would reign 1 hour with the beast. Y'all know that from Revelation. But let's look at that getting even interesting about, speaking of gentrification and things of that nature. Let's go back into the origin, right? Let's go back into the origin and look at this from the law. Now look at what he says here. He says, now, and the children of Israel journeyed from Ramses to Succoth, about 600,000 on foot that were with them, beside children. And a mixed multitude went up also with them. So he's saying that these 600,000 were all Hebrews, but there was a mixed multitude that went up with them, right? Now let's look at what that word mixed means. All right? Arab, right? Let's go back. But let's read it out now. They're saying that this is a web. It says a transverse threads of cloth, a mixture, a mongrel race, very disrespectful, Arabia, mingled people, mixed multitude, wolf, damn. You understand that? You understand that? To braid, to intermix, to technically to traffic as if by barter. And then with the Saharan slave trade, this is what they were into. Also to give or be security as a kind of exchange. Right? Engage, to intermeddle with, to mingle self, mortgage, occupy, give pledges. You seeing that now? Arab. So those mixed multitude were Arabs that went up with us. Y'all don't hear me. We'll be back with another one. Y'all bless you and take care. Everything was great for the little time we did spend. Hopefully we cleared up some stuff. And you guys have a safe weekend and shalom, and I'll see you in the next installment.